there, ref. Actually got the ball. Yes, good morning, Spurs fans. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys, Dave, Steve, Dermot, and Drew this morning as we build up to the 12:30 lunchtime kickoff against Leeds United at Ellen Road. So I'm absolutely buzzing. I think the boys are. Of course, we don't have a good record, heading into this international break. Haven't won the game before internationals since the 7th of October 2023. So it's not going to be the easiest test for us. And also, Leeds haven't lost at home in the league in well over a year either. So a difficult test ahead for Tottenham. But we will kick off because Thomas Frank has named his leadership group, Romero as captain, joined by Ben Davies, Madison, Vicario, and Van de Ven. And we'll start with you. I'll start off with you there, Stevie. What do you make of that mix? Does it feel like it reflects the sort of spine of the team?
You know me, man. I'm not a big fan of leadership committees at all to begin with, but yeah, sure. Let's just go with that. And congratulations to those that make up the new 2025 leadership group for Tottenham Hotspur. Hopefully, it actually helps this time around instead of last year's leadership group, which had zero accountability. And I would probably assume that those trends will continue into 2026.
Hopefully so. Look, I'm sort of with you. I prefer old school. I don't want any more of this woke nonsense, 5, 6, 7 people in the leadership group. I want to get back to captain and vice captain. I think too many voices in the dressing room, I think for me is a problem. At the end of the day, you can still have other leaders that don't exactly have that title or don't have that tag. Bit surprised by Ben Davies being included, maybe Madison as well. I'm not sure we had to include Madison. That's what we could have maybe revisited next year, considering he's not going to be available this season.
Well, for me, it just breeds complacency, right? Because a lot of these guys tend to be friends outside of the pitch as well, too, right? And so when you get that type of click, it kind of it doesn't necessarily include the rest of the dressing room. And of course, once you get a bunch of friends together, right, their I guess you can say shortcomings as a player don't get mentioned in that of those that are outside the leadership group, and it has a tendency to divide the dressing room. So I'm not a fan.
Carrio's another one. I'm not going to lie. I'm sort of surprised at because, with his mistakes recently in games, and I think that there's a lot of sort of questions raised, and amongst the Spurs fan base, do we need to go and do what maybe Arsenal done with Ramsdale and Ray, and maybe look at that position again come the summer? So again, Vicario, he doesn't strike me as the most calmest of guys in situations and stuff like that. So I'm a bit surprised on that. But Drew, are you surprised by any names included or maybe left out?
Yeah, I'm kind of. On the one hand, I completely expect. And first of all, let me preface this by saying leadership groups are bollocks. There should be a captain and a vice captain, and that should be it. But I'm old school. I keep forgetting that I'm 45. I still think I'm 23. So it is what it is. But I'm surprised Ben Davies because of how long left he's got at the club. But I'm also not surprised because of how long he's been at the club.
Fair.
I'm surprised with Madison because of how little football he's probably going to play this year.
Yep.
I'm not surprised. I'm kind of half surprised. I would have rather, if you were going to do it, I would have rather had Kulu in there instead of Madison.
Yep.
But then the same argument applies. How much football is he really going to play? I don't know, man. I just, they should all just be able to fucking get on with it. Excuse my language. So, yeah, I'm just... Vicario, I don't see the point because I think he's just... I don't know. I think he's maybe I don't want to say immature because I think that's the wrong word, but I don't think he's developed enough to be a leader. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Look, I think maybe some maybe surprised that maybe Pedro Porro was left out. I wonder if we do go make Paulinho sort of permanent in the summer, will he then sort of be thrusted into it, which I think he should. But in general, I sort of agree with you. I mean, what good did the leadership group do last year, right? We end up finished 17th. They didn't really do anything to try and turn that around when it came to the league and stuff like that. So sort of you are left questioning, well, what fucking good is this stuff, in terms of leadership group? Dermo, what is the leadership groups about? Is it more about experience, influence, or actual on-the-pitch performances? Because, I mean, it's hard to say the latter, considering Ben Davies and Madison are in it.
Look, I agree with the other guys. The leadership group to me is total BS. It shouldn't be within the game at all, but it is what it is now. I think leadership groups are meant to give the players responsibility or call players the responsibility of managing the dressing room, where it takes that pressure off the manager so he can look at other things. So for me, I think the players he's picked, it scratches my head. I think Ben Davies, why he's included, but he has been at the club for 10 years for maybe experience. James Maddison, I think why he included him, I think because he's out for the season. He wants him to make him feel he's part of the group. He's part of the season. So maybe that's why he picked Maddison. For me, it should be a captain and a vice captain, and that's it. But,
Right.
you know, I'm from the time where Dave calls me between 1950 and the 2026 times of watching football, a bit like Grand Uncle Albert out of Other Fools and Horses. But, you know, I think it's a good leadership group. I think it's a better one we had last year. I think there's a lot. I think Vicario, I'm glad he's included because he's very vocal. Romero, I think, is a great captain. I just think it work. But I think one thing that Thomas Frank will do, what Ange Postecoglou didn't do, he'll be more hands-on with it. Instead of leaving it to the players themselves, he's going to be more hands-on. So there'll probably be a meeting every week between them and the leadership group. What's happening? What's not happening? What needs to improve? So I think it's a bridge between the players to the manager. I think this is where this has all come about.
Well, that's what the leadership group is supposed to be, you know. So when that manages the dressing room and that when the manager maybe ain't there. In terms of Maddison, I get what you're saying about maybe keeping him and feel like he's involved in the group, but I'm pretty sure the fact that he still gets wages into his bank account at the end of every month should make him feel more than enough to be part of the group. But for me, in general, I think leadership groups should be about, you know, sort of on the pitch performances. You know, I don't like this, you know, who has the most influence, because then it sort of becomes a popularity contest. And as we've seen, Sonny as club captain when he won the popularity contest, didn't exactly, you know, help Tottenham Hotspur on the pitch and stuff like that. For me, it's got to be about on the pitch performances. Who's your most consistent players? Because I'm not being funny. If I wasn't in that leadership group and Maddison or Ben Davies came and spoke to me, you know where I'm telling them to go, right? You know, I'm just going to say, look, guys, you know, you're not even involved at them. You know what I mean? Who are you speaking to? You know, you can't, who are you speaking to? And you can't, then Ben Davies, you're not even being selected because you're on pitch performances. So I'm not listening to you. So for me, you know, I think it opens it up for other players to maybe lose the rag or, you know, a bit of infighting amongst themselves. Because I'm telling you now, I wouldn't listen to the likes of Davies or Maddison if they came to me and they're not even playing.
By the way, was this leadership group picked by Thomas Frank or was it picked by the captain himself? Right? Because if accountability, I was going to say, yeah, because if this is about accountability and making sure that you have the right people that are within your group, right? For the purposes of, you know, essentially policing the dressing room, you would probably assume that the captain himself would want the right leadership group around him, right? Because I'm trying to struggle to figure out exactly why Ben Davies and Maddison are a part of this group.
I think Ben Davies, just because he's seniority, isn't it? Like we're not blessed with a lot of, you know, old players or, you know, experienced players and stuff like that. And I think that's maybe why Maddison is or Ben Davies has been drawn in there, maybe to offer somebody this young squad maybe a bit of experience and stuff. Although I'm worried that it's coming from him, you know. Like I get that he's been here 10 years, but it's not like he's been a standout performer or he's been at a certain level that he should be dishing out advice. You know, I think the only advice he'd be dishing out is how to hang on at this level for 10 years. I mean, for me, not exactly great. But look, we'll welcome a few people in at home and then we will crack on with a lot more because we're going to talk about Rodrigo Bentancur's new contract, which I know has caused a bit of stir. 7:10 morning, Dave, Sleepy Time Jack, and panel. Hope all are well today. It's game day. We need 3 points and a win to go into international break on a high for the first time in a long time. I think it's absolutely important. I think it sort of shapes the perception of what Tottenham can do heading into the next few months. Big up Timmy Whitaker. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully keeping well. We have MJ123. Good morning, Dave and panel. Hope you're all well. Good to see you. Ribsy, hopefully you and Oliver are keeping well. My man, good to see you in the building. Stellars J says, so early here in the Pacific Northwest. Come on, you Spurs. Too much talk about leadership group distracts from the item itself. or from the team itself. Yep, definitely agree with that. Shamu says last 7 international breaks, no win. Shocking, Shamu. Absolutely shocking. Big up, Kate and Jimbo. Good to see you. Hopefully you're all keeping well. Timmy Whitaker says 45. That's a young whippersnapper. We've got
I appreciate that.
Game today. It's going to be a hard game up there. Come on, you Spurs. Well, it's going to be even harder if Thomas Frank doesn't get his team selection right, like he did midweek. Wilson T says, morning, guys. Dave was a good listener on last one on Spurs yesterday. Appreciate that. Very, very kindly. I'm not sure people even listen to me anymore, but it's glad to know that some people do, I suppose. Big up, Wilson. We've got Noel, morning, guys. Super pumped for this. Come on, you Spurs. We also have Wayne Bonner. Good morning, folks. Hope you're all well. Looking forward to a good, tough game today. 2-0 Spurs, Coys. We've got Timmy Whitaker, Davies and Vic shouldn't be anywhere near the leadership group. They are not required standard for a top 6 team. Good morning, Finn Rickwood. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Phil Coys in the house. Morning, lads. It's been 2 years since we have won a game before the international break. We need to break that hoodoo today. 3-1 Spurs. Absolutely spot on, Phil. And like I said, I think with the international break, it's sort of one of them, right? I think you go into it, not on a high. You're worried about what's to come off the back of this international break. It's sort of the period where things have maybe fell off under previous managers, previous regimes and stuff like that. So I think, how we enter the international break is absolutely huge, and we need to get the win. Good morning, Patricia. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. She says, come on, you Spurs. Lee Moody says, more than all, the performance is just as important as the points today. We can't scrape out a draw. We need to absolutely tear them apart. Come on, you Spurs. Don't disagree with that. Will we see it? Let's wait and see. Big up, Simon Cohen. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Robin is tuning in as well at 5 a.m. Good morning. Good to see you. And then we have Joel James. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good to see all the Spurs fans up nice and early. Pumped for today's game. Drewski, big news yesterday. Rodrigo Bentancur signed a new long-term contract. What's your reaction to this news? He's a divisive figure. Some fans love him and others aren't convinced. What's your reaction to the news, lad?
Come on, man. We know how I feel about Bentancur. I don't know, to be honest with you. We were talking about this yesterday, and it's tough because in that position, you've either got, I think we've got Bentancur or we've got kids. It's kind of the extremes. We don't really have anybody in that middle 24, 25 that's like, I don't know, for want of a better phrase, the heir apparent, or the next in line. So I don't know. I mean, from the point of view of
Frank seems to love him, though.
Who's
Frank
that?
said, he's an
absolutely, absolutely. And I got to give, basically, I have to kind of. Obviously, Frank supersedes everything, right? He's the one. We've just got to follow this guy and see what happens. So, if he wants more out of him, and I think we can all agree that compared to what we have seen in the past, like those first 6 months, when he actually was a bit of a difference maker, when he was getting up the pitch, when he was carrying us up the pitch, when he was arriving in the box, getting some pretty important goals. I mean, obviously we all, no need to go through it all, but injuries, suspensions, bans, whatever you want to call them, have taken their toll, and he's just not played much football in the last couple of years. So if he can genuinely, if there's another level there and Thomas Frank can get him to that level, then I'm all for it. I mean, the fact that it's a new long-term contract and it's not, it's not up next year means that we've at least saved some value and we don't have to risk him going on a free.
Fair.
Because that's always been an issue. So we've retained some value. There's nothing to say that next year, I mean, if he has a lights out rest of the season, who's to say somebody doesn't come in with a 50 million bid and then all of a sudden you're making a little bit of money? So, I mean, I'm not mad about it. I do have a little bit of a concern that in that middle of the park, other than Paulinho, there just seems to be a lot of hustle and bustle and a lot of try hard. But at the moment, the technical, like we're just off it by a few percent. And I don't know if that's just tactics, getting used to Frank, the players just adapting, or whether truly then they're just not quite it. I don't know. I can't decide. But I mean, it just makes sense. At this moment in time, given the contract situation, given that we're past the summer transfer window, it makes sense because otherwise you lose him on a free in January. So what else are you going to do?
Yeah, no, look, for me, look, the fact that Frank really likes him, I think, is a bonus. And I do get what maybe.
But let's face it, Dave. What's he going to say? What's he going to say? I don't like him.
Yeah, well, he's not going to give him. He's
mean?
not going to sign a new contract. He's not going to sit there and say, "Oh shit, I didn't want him." Yeah, absolutely,
Exactly.
spot on. But I think, when it comes to Rodrigo Bentancur, I do understand where you're coming from. I think, when you look at his form before maybe that injury period and that suspension period, he was a game changer in midfield for Tottenham. He was getting up the other end. He was scoring goals. He was affecting games for Tottenham. In the last couple of years, or since he's maybe got back, he hasn't really gone and affected games in that manner. Now, how much of it is to do with Postecoglou's positioning of him, where he wanted him to sit in deeper, maybe not get as far forward? I think maybe it's the same under Thomas Frank a little bit as well, that he is playing in that deep lying sort of midfield role. There's only so far he can get forward to sort of break the lines before he leaves us exposed back there. But interestingly, something Thomas Frank said, off the back of him signing a new contract, that he affects games, he gets forward, he scores goals. It's like, I can't remember the last time he's done that now. He hasn't done that since maybe Antonio Conte. And I do understand that maybe the fans want someone that has maybe a bit more ball progression in him. I think maybe the big talking point around Bentancur is that he plays a lot of it safe. He's great at recycling possession, but he's not that sort of guy that gets on the ball with a passing range and can sort of penetrate the lines, put balls over the top. He doesn't maybe have that expansive passing range that maybe I think many people are sort of looking for in that deeper position. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I think there's a use for Bentancur, someone that recycles possession, that can take the ball under pressure in tight spaces and not lose it. I think, there's a place for him in a team. I think any team that wants to control games, you need a player like Bentancur who rotates possession and stuff like that. But against the smaller teams, I suppose that's where you're sort of looking for him to maybe grab the game by the scruff of the neck, just play a bit more forward, maybe get a little bit more forward. You don't maybe need to sit in beside Paulini as much. And I think for me, that's where the big question mark comes in around Bentancur from the fan base. I don't think it's character or anything like that. I just think on the pitch, maybe they're looking for a bit more. But I also argue how much of that frustration is being put on them because the forward line is so lackluster. And what I mean by that is, we do get a lot of ball into that forward line, but it seems to be taken off them very quickly and then coming back one way. So it gives off the perception then that maybe we are not passing, into the forward players and stuff like that. But I think one of my biggest problems is everything seems to be to feet at Tottenham Hotspur. When a fullback's running down the wing with a ball, you're seeing the winger come towards him, and I'm standing there, I'm like, going behind. But I wonder how much of that is that we don't actually have enough players of the ability to find them balls in behind. Any left winger that runs down in behind, does Destiny Dog, if he's on the ball, really have the ability to put it in behind? Maybe not. Paulinho, Bentancur, probably not. Our two best passers in the team are centre-back and right-back in terms of Romero and Porro. They're the only two that really have the consistent ability to offer something different to be able to put it in behind. So I also wonder how much of that doesn't help Bentancur's game, the fact that we're not really seeing too many runners in behind. Everybody is coming to the ball, looking for it, to feet. They are looking to come short. It seems to be a tactic that, Frank hasn't employed. So I'm just trying to guess, I suppose, guys, how much of it is down to instructions and how much of it is down to his ability.
Look at what he's had to put. Look at what he's had in front of him in the last 18 months. He's had Timo Werner on the left that couldn't, I think we all agree, couldn't trap a bag of cement. He's had Richarlison, who, as good as his overhead kicks are, Comet Richarlison, who comes around with a brace every couple of years, great. But the dude, he can't hold up a ball. He really can't. And then you got Johnson on the other side, who we all know is one-dimensional, great at tap-ins. So from that point of view, I can kind of understand when you're a central midfielder and you're looking at those three or any sort of version of those three. I mean, even Solanke's been trying to find his feet in a team that plays completely different style of football to what he's used to. So when you do look at our midfield, you can kind of understand why they're sort of looking at each other sometimes going, what on earth is this like up front? I mean, 3 seasons ago, we had a fit firing Harry Kane and we had a Son that was doing bits. Yeah. I mean, even Son the last couple of years isn't really, we all agree he's not the Son that he used to be.
Yeah,
You
but but now Drew, he's got Kudus on the right and he's got Xavi on the left. So what's the excuse?
Well, I mean, he's had Xavi for, come on, mate, 3 games, 3 games. Yeah, but what? We're 9 games into a regime. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's still. I get it, but this is a whole team kind of thing, no?
Yeah, but my point is like where is Betancourt out there taking risks like he did before? You know, we're like at least trying to progress the ball forward instead of wide. You know what I mean? Like when's the last time we actually seen one of his passes break lines? Now is that ability or is that Thomas Frank and what he's asking him to do, right? But that being said, I don't have a problem with the extension on the surface, right? But because the idea is if you don't have somebody that's willing to step in and be the next, you might as well keep. But the issue with this is this shouldn't stop Tottenham Hotspur from improving that position, even in January or even in the summer, right? Like for me, the way that I look at Rodrigo Betancourt is he, for me, especially on a good team that's consistently trying to get in the Champions League, he's a very solid rotational player.
But can we afford, when you've got the numbers, especially like the Premier League foreign quota numbers, your Champions League, like can you afford to block the pathway of something? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Like you say, it makes sense right now.
Yeah, for sure. But does this extension, even in the long term, block an Archie Gray or block a Lucas Bergvall or block somebody else from them bringing somebody in?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. But when you look at Bergvall, when he's played in that deep role, how many games has he cost us in terms of giving away the ball? And I think there is, a value in having someone like Betancourt who is so, calm in possession, doesn't lose it deeper, doesn't allow, easy routes on our goal, doesn't allow easy shots. Now, I get that. Like, don't get me wrong, I would hope that a progressive passer from deep is on Tottenham's shopping list moving forward. I think, look, if Betancourt wants to sort of go to the next level, I think, displaying his passing range from time to time, or improving his passing range is an area that he needs to improve. But again, how much is it down to tactics? Because I think everyone's going after Rodrigo Betancourt. But if he doesn't have runners in behind and everyone's coming short looking for the ball, what passes do you want him to make? Because if he puts it in behind and everyone's coming short, people start moaning that this guy hasn't a clue what he's doing. He's just kicking the ball away and stuff like that. So, against Stevie, how much of it is actually down to instructions rather than his ability?
Well, I don't know how you feel, but I actually feel like Thomas Frank wants to play a little bit more direct instead of what we've been seeing. And I think a lot of that is hampered by the fact that we actually really just don't have a target 9 has that ability to play that way. And so from that standpoint, you would probably think that, but you would still think that a guy that's willing to take risks is still going to try, even with a guy like Richarlison playing up top, or with a guy who can hold the ball up and a guy like Mohamed Kudus on the right, and we're just not seeing it.
Yeah, no, look,
we're just not seeing it. He's not the same player anymore. And as much as I like him, it's when I see him, his eyes aren't up the pitch. Like you said, I think you just mentioned it perfectly. Just a few moments ago, where he's there to recycle the ball. He's not there to take risks.
Yeah, no, fair. I think it's a fair point. Look, like I said, can we get Betancourt back to that form that maybe he was in under Conte, where he was that game changer? But I would argue, I think since that era, sort of under the last 2 previous regimes in terms of Frank and Postecoglou, he's playing a lot deeper, but it doesn't excuse him from maybe playing too safe at times. Sometimes you are looking at me and going, just get turned, punt it forward. And I would argue he was doing that at the start of the season. And I think maybe it has tailed off a little bit. But I would argue as well, I think since Frank has maybe started to mess around with that Paulinho sort of Betancourt double pivot, it's cost us games because he's taken one or the other out rotating. When we were winning and looking good at the start of the season, they were coming in there with Papamat and Sarr ahead of them. Since he started rotating that, we've sort of dropped points. We've sort of maybe started to open up, concede more goals in terms of maybe not, keeping as many clean sheets. And right now, when our forward line is as poor as it is imperative that we keep clean sheets if we want to win games. So I think right now, fans are just going to have to put up with it for the time being, maybe until,
I-
because right now people could say sticky Val. He doesn't have that expansive passing range that you need back there. It doesn't improve, and also he's too much of a liability. The amount of times he gives away the ball and it gets turned on us and puts in the back of our own net, and he gets a reprieve from it. For instance, everyone goes after the carry-off for that Brighton goal, fair. But Bergvall has as much part to blame by being a headless chicken and trying to play football at right back, rather than just sort of clear your lines and stuff like that. Papa Matasar, look, I really like Papa Matasar. He provides a great engine, and maybe, if we do get, the likes of Kulizeski back and stuff like that, it might free up Papa Matasar to maybe play in that deeper position. However, he's another one that likes to sort of go after the ball. And I think he is better utilized right now as sort of playing in front of Paulini and Bentancur. So right now, I would argue we just don't have the options to take him out. I'd rather him play there and recycle possession and be calm in it than someone else that maybe doesn't or isn't as good in possession and can't recycle it as much, because then all of a sudden you're giving away possession and teams are just coming at you. So for right now, with the options we got, I think there's value to it. Sorry, Dermo.
On Bentancur, I think a lot of also he's coming back from 2 serious injuries, so he's never going to be the same player as he was till he gets up to speed again. Somebody said it in the chat. You look at the Villa game before he got injured; he was awesome in that game. So we know there's a player there. We know there's a good player there. I think coming back from his ECL is very difficult. I'm pleased they've signed him up a new contract, because it shows that he's committed to us. Instead of him trying to say, I want to move on, he's committed to what we're doing. He's committed to Thomas Frank. He's committed to Tottenham Hotspur and what we're going to try to do for January going on forwards. Yes, he could be better. Yes, he should be played more as a central midfielder than a CDM, but needs must at the moment, because we've got players that are injured and we haven't got the squad to free him up. So for me, Bentancur will come good. He will get back to his best again. I think it's going to take time for him to get back, because of coming back from injuries. And look, when he came back from his first injury, we were all saying the same thing. We were all saying the same thing about it. And then suddenly it clicked into gear. So I have no fear that it won't click into gear again. I think Bentancur is essential to us, in my opinion. And I think you look back when we first got him, he was essential to us getting top 4 under Conte when him and Kula came in. So there is a good player. You don't become a bad player overnight. It's just finding the right position for him. And I think Thomas Frank has to use him there, for the time being. But I think if we get a proper CDM, when Kula gets back, I think you see him moved into the number 8 role. And I think we'll see the best of Bentancur in there.
Interesting.
I think, just real quick, Dave, I think I mentioned this before. I feel like there's for the most part, 2 types of players, right? You've got players that are catalysts and you've got players that are consequences. You've got players that are catalysts and they make things happen and they make the players around them better footballers. And then you've got players that are consequences of those players that play well because they've got really good players around them.
Correct.
And I just think that Bentancur at Juventus was the Bentancur that he was, because he had supremely good footballers around him. He had a very, very good back line. You had Chiellini and whatever his name is, I've forgotten his name, the dude that went to AC and then went back again. But anyway, you had a solid back 3, great wing backs, a top class centre forward. And then he came to Tottenham and he's playing with peak Kane, just entering his peak years Kane, peak Sonny. You had Kulu that hit the ground running pretty much. So you had players around him that were already clicking. So he could just play his game. I don't feel like he had to grab players by the scruff of the neck and feel like he had to make them better. And I just think, I don't know, I think maybe you're seeing, without the real class around him, I think you're seeing his actual level.
Correct.
I think you sort of struck it there, didn't you? Where you said, we had Kulu one side, Son the other, and Kane up front.
Right.
We had a front 3 that could retain the ball, that could take the ball off him, and go and create themselves, go and score goals themselves. And I think that's the big problem now. I'm not being funny, but unless the ball goes into Kudos, everyone else is passing it backwards. They're putting the responsibility back on the midfield. The reason why they're passing the ball into these guys because they want them to get turned. They want them to go at them. They want to make things happen. But right now, bar Mo Kudos, everything is coming back. And I think that's maybe why people aren't asking questions of Paulinho on the ball, because when it does get to Mo Kudos, it's not coming back. He's getting turned. He's driving forward. Whereas I think when people look at this left-hand side, I think they more so look at Bentancur and go, he's not doing enough in possession. How many balls have we got into advanced positions down that left? That Udogie is hitting the fullback with his crossing. Xavi Simons, maybe hasn't lived up to the heights that many people put on him when he moved in here. And I just think, I think Thomas Frank alluded to himself there yesterday in the press conference. And I think it's a quote he shouldn't have said, because I think it's one that, people will bring up later down the line if things don't go well. But he said, well, right now the right-hand side's creating everything, the left-hand side's finishing off. I mean, it's what I seen last year under Postecoglou, but all we've done is switch the problem. Last year, the left created everything and the right was finishing it off. But all we've done is sort of switched it around. And I think Bentancur is being hampered maybe because he's playing on the left side of that pivot. I think people are looking at him going, well, what are you actually doing? But I think the big problem is we do get enough ball into the forward line, but they just can't make it stick. They're not deadly with it. Whereas when he did get the ball in previous years, he could give it to Kane. And I'm not being funny, but he could also get forward and break the lines because he could trust them in possession. The minute he gets forward now and the ball gets pumped out to that left-hand side or pumped into Richarlison, why would you take the gamble in terms of trying to get forward to affect the game when 9 times out of 10 you're predicting that ball is coming straight back? The minute you vacate, you're caught out of position. So for me, I wonder how much of it is that Bentancur doesn't actually want to sort of, vacate that position because he actually doesn't trust these guys in terms of in possession. Because actually, when you go back to it underneath Antonio Conte, Højbjerg sat a little bit deeper and Bentancur was the one tasked getting forward. But he could get forward because he knew that someone like Harry Kane could find him. He could play off him. Same with Sonny, same with Kulu. And I just don't think that ability is there. And I think right now, personally, I think Rodrigo Bentancur is being judged a bit harshly, because of maybe the problems that we've got in the other areas of the field. Now, don't get me wrong. I maintain, and Thomas Frank even said it in his press conference yesterday, I've had a word with Bentancur. I think there is more to come from him. There's that next level in him. And I do think, maybe because at the end of the day, he can't just keep recycling possession back there either. With Paulinho sort of doing a lot of the mopping up work, you do need a guy that can show a bit more of an expansive passing range. But I'd also argue, I think Thomas Frank needs to start instructing some of them players to start running in behind rather than always dropping short and looking to receive the ball into feet. I just want to say good morning to a couple of people. Big up DJ AK, good to see you. We've also got Scotty Hynam in the house, great to see you. Stefan Blois. We also have K32. We also have Logan THFC in the house. And my man DJ AK as well, along with Davy Shire and also Futures Bright, Futures Lily White, and also Singularity. Good morning to all of you guys at home. Keep running them likes up for us. Really helps us out in the algorithm, guys. If you have any questions or talking points you want discussed, feel free to get them in. Now, let's go and have a discussion around maybe the direction we're heading in, guys. Only one winner in our last 4, and that was against League One opposition, Doncaster Rovers. In our last 2 games, we've also needed late equalisers just to salvage a point. Are the performances starting to feel eerily similar to what we've done under previous regimes? Or is there still a reason to stay positive about the direction we're heading in? Dermo, we'll kick off with you and then we'll get the other 2 boys in.
I think there's still reasons to be positive. I think all this doom and gloom is ridiculous. I mean, we've got the best record in the Premier League this season, the best away record this season. Performances haven't been great. But we're not. If this was Ange Postecoglou last season, we wouldn't have won any of them games. So we're already gaining points we would have lost last season. I just feel that, look, Bodo, for me, I wasn't happy with the performance. I was happy with the way we fought back. I was happy with the resilience we're showing. I'm happy with the way that we're not giving up. We seem much fitter than we did under Ange Postecoglou. We seem to be not wanting to lose, which is a mentality we had under Ange. And I think everyone just saying, "Oh, it's the same old Tottenham, Frank out, and this is boring." Need to give the head a wobble, or go somewhere and go into a dark room and give yourself a good talking to, because we're sitting 5th in the league. Yeah, I know what I was saying, Drew. Look, we're 5th in the league. We win today, we're back into the top 4. If somebody had said to this before the international break, you'd be sitting in 5th, only 1 defeat out your first 7. We've scored more goals and we've conceded less than we did last season. Yes, the performances can be a bit iffy, but if you look at Brighton away, the way we come back from 2-0 down, where we shouldn't be 2-0 down, last season would have lost that. If you look at the Wolves game, I think it's an exception because we were diabolical against Wolves. But we have a bad record against Wolves anyway. This is the worst Wolves side, but we've never won against Wolves, I think, in the last 5. So I think there's a lot to be positive about. I think there's a lot to be looking forward to the season. And look, next month, yes, we're running into a hard bunch of games, but I'm fully confident we can get something out of them games. We may not win all of them, but I'm not going into it thinking, oh, Jesus, we're going to lose every one of them. Because I think we're more compact, we're more organised under Thomas Frank, we're more defensively sound. If we can get the front 3 working and get that right, I think we're going to be very difficult to play against. I think we just need 1 or 2 more players to unlock this lock to this team, and I think on we go. So look, I'm looking at the first sort of 7 games. I'm feeling quite positive. Yes, performance need to be better, but what we were seeing last season, this is night and day. So I think
I
we
disagree.
have to be,
I disagree.
I know you do.
I think that's a load of codswallop, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it's night and day. We've got the same problems in the forward area. Thomas Frank said it in the press conference yesterday. One side creates, one side taps home. Now, we've seen last season, that's not sustainable. You'll become very easy to set up against. I think the only difference is that maybe we are more threat from set pieces. And look, don't get me wrong, Frank has made us defensively more stable, which gives us the ability to take a point in games that maybe we dropped points last season. But 1 win in our last 4, Brighton away, okay, I'll accept that as a draw. Wolves, I'm not accepting. I don't care about the record.
I never said I accepted the Wolves.
No, I know that. This is my opinion, Darmo. I'm not accepting it. I'm just not. They were bottom of the table, struggled to score goals, nowhere near good enough. Doncaster, second half, absolutely fucking shocking. Bodo Glimt, we went away to a team in Norway and had less than 30% possession. A Premier League team going away to Norway and having less than 30% possession. It's absolutely nowhere near good enough. And right now, in possession, we're absolutely shocking. For me, performances have maybe dropped off. The clean sheets, we're starting to see goals now in recent games as well, which is which means if we don't keep clean sheets, we lose our ability then to go and win games because we don't score enough goals. And for me, I'm just sort of looking at it. Is the honeymoon period sort of coming to an end already? Because the reality is, under Postecoglou, first 10 games of his first season, there was promise there. Underneath Antonio Conte, for the first while under his tenure, promise there. Even Nuno got off to a 3-game unbelievable start, 3 clean sheets, wheels fell off. Same with Jose Mourinho. And we are heading into that period now, after the international break, where traditionally, under previous regimes, the new manager bounce has sort of just been washed away. And we've struggled, heading into that next period. And for me, when I look at it, I wonder how much of it are we just getting sort of giddy? Because when you look at it, we've had the easiest start to the Premier League, Champions League, and EFL Cup campaign compared to Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, teams like that. They've already played top teams in the Champions League. They've already played each other in terms of Premier League. We've had an easy start. And for me, where I get disappointed around this start is, we should have put maximum points, or at least close to near maximum points on the board, heading into this busy sort of fixture schedule. And that's, for me, where I get a little bit let down in terms of, the start to the season, or maybe not the start to the season, but maybe the last 4 games in general. I see problems on the horizon. One big thing that was said on the previous regimes, is this sustainable? And I think the same questions need to be asked right now, because something I've tried saying a long, long time, and this is where I think fans need to learn a lesson. Most people put that forward line on the manager last year. Who they blaming this year? At the end of the day, if you don't have the right forward line, and scoring goals at this level is the hardest thing to do, you fail to win games of football. And I think the exact same thing is happening here. And when you fail to win games of football, fans start losing patience. And when fans start losing patience, the manager's put under pressure. And once the manager's put under pressure, he very rarely survives at Tottenham Hotspur. So I'd argue, I think that's why I think I place greater importance on a game like today, that if you win over the course of the international break, you quell a lot of the maybe skepticism from the fan base, maybe some of the skepticism that maybe other people are starting to ask from the outside looking in. And I think you flip that and you sort of go into that next period if you win this game today and you're like, anything's possible. We're still on course to sort of challenge across all four. If we tweak certain areas, we can get, we can fix this. But I think if we lose, I think very quickly fans are going to start looking at this and going, how sustainable is this? And that's where I think this question sort of has been brought about, Steve. I know you want to
can I add to that, Dave? I'm not sitting here in I'm not sitting here in Dodo land thinking everything's pretty and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I wasn't happy. No, just let me finish. I never said I was happy with the Wolves' performance. I actually said it was diabolical. I also said I thought the Bodo game was diabolical performance. Well, I was talking about the resilience of coming back because last season we wouldn't have done that. We'd have lost them games, especially the Bodo game. We would have lost that. We should have been 4-0 down. Bodo take their chances. We lose that game. So I agree with you. It's diabolical. But the resilience we're showing under Thomas Frank, which we didn't have last season. Do you look at Brighton away? Yes, we should have won that game, but we got a point. Last season we wouldn't have got a point.
Yeah,
you got to look at what he's trying to build. He's still got a squad that Levy built. Somebody said it in the chat, and I totally agree with. But you also got to look at the positive side as well. We can't all sit here saying it's all doom and gloom. We're sitting 5th in the league. Yes, we've had an easy start to most other teams, but when you got to beat what's in front of you. You can say we've had an easier start, but so Man United have had a sort of an easier start. Look where they're sitting. So you play what's in front of you. He's had one transfer window. So all these people that have
one transfer window, but a better window than any other manager that has gone by since Pochettino.
But it's still not good enough, though, Dave. There's still more to do. There's still more players to get. We didn't get a striker. We didn't get a left winger. We didn't get a left back. So there's still more to buy. There's still more to build. There's still dead wood to get out of the team as well.
The previous managers have had the same problems.
Yeah, I know, but
this isn't just Thomas Frank specific.
I know,
previous managers have been left short. At the end of the day. But at the end of the day, though, Dermot, we can sit here and say about the transfer window, the club put in a lot of money to try and fix that forward line, which they knew was a massive problem. Yeah. He chose to leave 2 of them on the bench at the midweek. His choice, no one else's.
Yeah, I know that. He's paid to make them choices. We can sit here and criticize and we can sit here and praise them or really have a go at them, but he's paid millions to make them choices. We may not be happy with his decision. And all of us sitting here, all of us watching, all football managers in one way or the other, we all think we can do a better job, but he's paid millions to make them decisions. So he has to live and die by them decisions. He has to, if it doesn't go right, he has to take responsibility. I didn't make the right decisions today. What do I learn from it? What can I do better? Yeah. But I'm sitting here looking at it from a point of view where we're in the top half of the league. We're not struggling like most people thought we would be. It doesn't need to be improvement. Hell yeah. Does it need to change? Some things need to change. Hell yeah. But it's not all doom and gloom. And I think having the best away record in the Premier League after the first nearly 7 games, I mean, we don't normally say that with Spurs. Our away form's been shocking. So, yes, there is things to improve, but we also got to look at the positives as well. There's got to be a bit of a balance, 50-50. I agree a lot with what you say, Dave, but I'm trying to balance it out by saying, look, we're not as bad as what most people say we are.
I get it. I think there is some positives there for sure. But I question how sustainable is what we're sort of watching. And I think it's a fair question to ask. It's been a question that's asked, time and time again. So, look, that's where I'm sort of at with it. Like I said, I think there's positives, but there's also warning signs I don't think you can ignore. Stevie, you want to come in?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I've said this on multiple occasions. Like when I saw the schedule, those first 2 months were an opportunity for this team to bank points, because when you looked at it, the only 2 teams that you're kind of like wondering, like, okay, yeah, like maybe Man City away, maybe Brighton away, but outside of that, there were teams. There were teams in this first couple of months, the Bournemouths of the world, Wolves. Burnley, teams where we should be always taking 3 points. And even in the Champions League, when that fixture schedule got released, the first couple, you're kind of looking at it like, okay, cool, we're going to be in a position where we can actually bank points and put ourselves in a pretty decent situation. And outside of that, we're starting to see some of these lapses that we saw last year, right? Bodo Glimt. Wolves were perfect examples, right? How many open shots did they have on net? Because we, for whatever reason, defensively, our man marking, we always seem to be in the wrong positions, and they're always getting, free looks at net, right? You're absolutely right. Bodo Glimt should have played us off the park. But that being said, for whatever reason, they just couldn't finish their dinner. The point is they were in position to actually play us off the pitch, right? Like, no disrespect to the Norwegian top flight, but never in a perfect world should a team like Bodo Glimt play us off the park for a solid full half. And actually, it was more like 60 minutes we got played off the park. And thankfully they took their foot off the gas and we were able to kind of put ourselves in a position to take one back. But we never should have gotten to that position to begin with in the first place. Like, if we think that this team is so talented, then why aren't we at why isn't that talent showing itself on the pitch against teams that we probably should be like night and day, should be taking 3 points, like game in and game out. And so you're starting to wonder whether or not this team is actually fits Thomas Frank's what Thomas Frank actually wants to accomplish tactically as a team, right? Is this team, is this team capable of doing the things that he is asking them to do, right? Because all I see, and especially in crucial moments of the game, I just see lapses defensively, right? Like, Dermot, you mentioned this team is compact. It's like, at times they are. At times they can actually play that, and at times they can actually stand up and actually make a play, but at other times they just seem to turn it off. And then all of a sudden, Evan Nielsen bangs in a goal, and he was, he's able to run in past, Romero, and put one past, right? Or there's a ball over the top, and all of a sudden, Jed Spence gets turned around, and all of a sudden there's the balls in the back of the net, and at an inopportune time when there's actually their mind's supposed to be in the game, all of a sudden something just clicks and they just shut off for a second, right? And then all of a sudden a match where all of a sudden we feel like we should be taking 3 points ends up being 1, and now all of a sudden we've missed the opportunity. Like, as of right now, we probably should be sitting somewhere like in the 12 to 15 point range, and instead we're at 8. 1 win in the last 4 against teams we should have been playing off the park. Yeah, like that to me it's shambolic.
I agree with you. I'm sort of one of them. I agree. I looked at the fixture list, and I said we need to stack our points up early because when you come into this tough fixture list, you're going to suffer injuries. Some of your better, you're going to lose one or two of your better players, and it's important to have the points stacked up against the likes of Man City, Chelsea, and teams like that who already had sort of difficult enough opening fixtures, so that when these games come around, if you do get a result off them, it's keeping that buffer there, or at least if you do lose, you've got that buffer there where you sort of stay ahead of them. Now what we're seeing, they're in and around us. And off the back of our fixtures, I think, if you give them to one of the other teams, they'd be sitting top with maximum points right now. That's just my sort of feeling on it. And it's not only that, but it's the football is shit as well. And Thomas Frank also needs to fix the home form. Tottenham fans ain't going to keep rocking up and paying that and watching that shit at home in terms of lack of possession, lack of creativity, lack of passing, and in general, not picking up results at home. It was one big bugbear under Ange Postecoglou, probably, the main thing that sort of put the fucking pin into the balloon was they're not going to keep rocking up paying the most expensive tickets for games and watching that shit. They're just not. That's one thing he needs to get a grip of very, very quickly.
The biggest concern of all is we're at in match week 7, and Thomas Frank still doesn't know who his best 11 is at the moment. Well, and I don't. Maybe that's because of injury. Okay, fine. But that being said, it's like I get the impression that he himself has no idea who his best 11 is at the moment.
Well, it's just all this nonsense. I think, like last year, we got into the rounds of blaming the manager for everything. We blamed them for every injury that happened at the football club. And I tried to warn people, it's a slippery slope to go down. Okay, under Thomas Frank, people said it was the way we played last year. We've already got a lot of injuries this year under Thomas Frank and stuff like that. So injuries isn't manager specific, like I tried to highlight last season. And I think, we went down the rounds of blaming the manager for absolutely everything. And it's like we can sit here so because of all the injuries we had last year, all of a sudden people think rotation this early this season is a fantastic thing. It's going to preserve our players, later on in the campaign and stuff. And I can understand the theory behind it. It's solid, but football just doesn't work like that. Even if you're not playing and you're still traveling and stuff like that, you're still, putting miles into your legs and all that sort of stuff. And for me, you know, we can sit here and say Thomas Frank doesn't know his best 11. What was preseason for? That's what preseason's for, right?
Sure.
You know, that's what
But,
some of the early games of the campaign is. Like, we're 10 games into the season. Everyone's sitting there applauding the rotation. Like, heading into the Bodo game, everyone's sitting there going, fantastic, clapping like fucking seals. Great rotation. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, hang on, this is already a tricky enough sort of away day, let alone making it even trickier with Udeburn, Johnson, Richarlison. Where's the creativity coming from? Where's the goals coming from? You know, we're already putting ourselves on, you know, on the back burner, relinquishing possession to them before kickoff has even happened. Their manager would have been sitting there wanking off in a dark room 5 minutes before the game, seeing our forward line and the lineup that he put out there. No Paulini in midfield. I'm sorry, but his rotation is also costing us games. You know, the rotation against Wolves didn't need to happen. Rotation against Bodo didn't need to happen. I'm sorry, but newsflash, we're 10 games into a fucking season. If players are tired and need to be rotated now, then what the fuck are we doing here?
Right, and also remember that this was a 17th place for the majority of this roster was finished 17th place last year in the shambolic season last year, and there's only 3 additions to the starting 11 right now: Paulinho, Kudus, and Xavi. 3 players that are actually night and day better than what we actually had last year, but also the base of this team finished 17th last year. So maybe this team was as bad as it showed last year. Maybe.
Well, can I just say one thing, Dave, just very quickly? We're sitting in 5th, right, with 11 points after 6 games. Now, we've lost only 1 of our last 5. Yes, you can say we haven't won either because they're draws. Okay, we're sitting in 5th. We've scored 11, only conceded 4. Teams above who finished above us last season, Chelsea. You got Newcastle in 15th, Villa in 16th, who finished well above us last season. And then if you look at the goals of the goal difference completely, sorry, I'm just getting it now. Apart from Arsenal, we have the second best goal difference in the top 5. A win today, we're going to second place. I know it's only for a couple of hours before the other games shake out. We'll probably be down in 3rd or 4th. So where I understand where everyone's coming from, if you look at that after this is the 7th game of our Premier League season, I think there's a lot to improve, but it's not all doom and gloom. We're not down the bottom. We're not down the bottom half of the table. We're sitting in the top 5 with 11 points after 7 games. A win today, we're going to 2nd. With 1 defeat in our last 5. I get it. I get it. People see things differently. I get it. Probably I'm more positive than most fans, but I'm looking at it from a different angle, and this is just how I see it. And I make no apologies for that. I just say it.
I get what you're saying, but you also take into account Arsenal have played Liverpool. They've already played Man City. They've already played Newcastle. You go to who we've played here now. Like, this is my problem. Like, we're fluffing up these stats to make them sound great. Go back to the actual games we've played. Wolves, worst team in the Premier League right now. You know, Brighton, you know, West Ham, who are one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now. Bournemouth, Burnley. The only big game we've played is Man City. And this is, I think, the point that me and Steve are trying to hammer home. You look at the fixtures other teams have played and look at the fixtures we've played. Of course, our stats are going to look one way, given the caliber of the opposition we've played compared to other teams. But the warning signs are there. When we come and play some of these bigger teams, the warning signs are there, in my opinion. We only, like, some of our stats look great right now because we haven't played any great caliber of opposition. You go and look at who Newcastle have played. You go and look at the opening that Liverpool have had. They've all played each other. All the big teams are playing each other. We're not. We've avoided it.
You can only play what's in front of you. You can.
I get that.
You can't dictate the league. You can't.
No, I get that, Dermot. I'm trying to bring context to your stats. You're sitting here making them all look fluffy.
Well, I'm just telling you what the Premier League.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Dermot, but you're not listening. I get what you're saying. You're bringing the stats, making it sound fluffy and rosy. I'm giving you the counter argument to it, saying that we haven't really played anybody yet compared to these other teams. That's
I know
point.
that, but I'm just telling you at the moment that's where we're sitting in the league.
Well, come back to me in 3 months' time with similar stats and see how great they look.
Yeah, I just see it slightly differently. I'm not sitting here I'm just seeing it differently. I understand what you two are saying. I'm not stupid. I do get it. I do understand what you two are saying, but I'm just saying it from a different point of view. You know, there's a loud of opinion. There's a loud of different opinions. We don't have to all agree. You two have your opinion, and I understand it fully, and it makes a lot of sense. But I'm coming from a different point of view. So, you know, yes, we do have to play the big teams. Yes, we've had an easier start than most teams, but you still got to play what's in front of you. You still got to play. You still got to beat teams that you come against. Bournemouth was a dreadful performance. Bournemouth are second in the league. They're high flying at the moment, playing really good football. But yeah, I will come back in 3 months. But we've got to see what happens in November. And if we can come out with a number with a few good results in November out of them teams, then I think we all be very happy. But I get what you two are saying. I do understand it.
Yeah.
I'm just coming from
listen,
a different point of view.
Listen, but the interesting thing is we struggled against Bournemouth. We struggled against Brighton. We struggled against Wolves. We struggled against Bodo. And by the way, those three Premier League teams are going to probably be finishing anywhere between 8th and 12th at the end of the season. They're going to be finishing where they're supposed to finish, right? So that's the interesting thing. It's like right now we're 5th. Okay, fantastic, right? We've done just enough. Also, who's better? Who's playing better than us right now? Sunderland. Right, like that's the interesting thing, right? So it's like when I look at the table right now, it's like to me it's a fugazi, it's false information, right? What I see on the pitch is a team that's struggling, to take points off, to take points off teams that are going to be finishing where they always finish, mid-table, and yet we still haven't played Chelsea, we haven't played Liverpool, we haven't played Woolwich. We haven't played any of the heavy hitters. You're welcome, Drew. We haven't played any of the heavy hitters yet, and we're struggling to close out teams that are going to finish 12th.
Yeah. I think that's my concern, because I'm looking at the same table, right? Played 6, won 3, drawn 2, lost 1. But to me, that's played 6, and that's 7 points dropped against Bournemouth, against Wolves, against Brighton. And then you look at the bottom 3, Wolves, West Ham, Burnley. Well, those, that's 7 points there that we did win, but that's against the bottom 3. And it is a genuine concern. I mean, I appreciate the optimism, but it's really not. But then I'd be an absolute hypocrite, because I sat here last night and said, you've still got to give the dude time. We're still only,
of course you do.
Still only, I'm not saying that anyone has said anything contrary to that. It is one of those things. We are 10 games into a completely new regime. It's just, and I appreciate the fact that we are sitting 5th, I made the point yesterday that the likes of Newcastle in 15th, the likes of Villa in 16th, when you start down there, it sometimes can be really, really hard to get your way back up the table. I mean, we found that out last year when there were still 10 games to go, and I was sitting here going, oh, it'll be all right, boys, we'll still get 7th. And then we kept losing. Do you know what I mean? So I get it. I'd rather be 5th than 16th. But I think everybody has valid points here about the way that the team are playing. And some of this does fall on the players. Like, Thomas
100%.
Thomas Frank cannot be fully responsible for the fact that at times Bergvall, as much as I love him, is like a French bulldog puppy who just doesn't know when to fucking quit. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just runs around like headless chicken sometimes, and you just think to yourself, you just need to calm down and just let the game come to you. Stop trying to go to the game all the time. It's not Thomas Frank's fault that for some reason, regardless, like, the more I watch Richarlison, the more frustrated I am at myself for not realizing that I could have been a professional footballer. because I genuinely, I've got a better first touch than that guy. I really have. And I don't know why.
Brazilian, Drew?
I don't know what it's going to
Brazilian?
take. Right. I don't know what it's going to take for him to, and maybe he just doesn't have it in him. Maybe he's just that on the edge that he just can't control it. I don't know. But there are so many other forwards that you look at and you think he's just, he's just taking a deep breath and he's just doing what comes naturally to him. And then you look at Richarlison and it's just a 1 in 10 movements, 1 in 10 moments. You're actually like, oh, that was pretty decent. And what it's highlighted even worse when you see 60, 70 mile an hour balls get put through to Kudus and he just stops it on a dime. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't know. It's a lot of things, man. And, I guess, we're all getting a bit frustrated, but we all, unfortunately, it's the same old Tottenham cycle. We just need to have a little bit more patience for a little bit longer.
Well, right. But right, here's the thing though, right? So I'm not like, I don't mean me to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, right? We're going to get Solanke back. We're going to get Randall Kolo-Muani back. And at some point in November, we're going to get Kulusevski back. And at that stage, Thomas Frank is going to be able to set up his team appropriately, right? He's not going to have to continue to make rotations. And I would probably assume at that point, the 11 is going to look a lot better. And I would probably assume at that point, they're probably going to play better as well, too, especially in the attacking third. But the question is how many points between now and then are we going to drop? Because I think you just hit the nail right on the head, right? It's hard to gain traction and move your way up the table to put yourself in a position to potentially get a European spot, right? It's incredibly hard to move up. It's easy to move down. And is this going to be a type of season where we're going to need a cup finish, to rescue our season? You know what I mean? Like that to me is the big question, right? So on one hand, it's going to get better because we're going to get better players back, and we have a January transfer window, right? So that's definitely going to help. But the question is like, are we going to be sunk in the table before that actually happens?
Look, I'm looking at it from look. Drew is right in what he's saying, by the way, and I agree with Drew about Richarlison. I mean, my heart sinks every time that player walks on the pitch. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, can we? I had this argument with Rayman the other day. Does Dean Scarlett get ahead of him? I don't think Dean Scarlett's any better. But
dude, the fact that the community talks about playing Johnson or Scarlett up front just goes to show how bad Richarlison is.
He is bad.
Yeah.
Look, I don't blame Thomas Frank. I think Thomas Frank needs time.
Either.
And if you look at what we went through last season, it's kind of like having a bad dream and waking up for it and thinking, Jesus, was that really a nightmare? And I've been saying it quite consistently. Maybe we need a bit of boring. I know it's not the football we love, but maybe just at the start of it, need a bit of boring just to get what we watched last season out of our system. Because we were dreadful. Dave, you and me went to the Palace game, and that's the worst I've ever. That's worse than the AC Milan game we went to. You and me were not happy. Philip Brady nearly had a Connery coming out of the bloody place because he was flipping fuming too. So I look at the start of this season, and you're thinking, okay, maybe it's not great football. Maybe we should be doing better. But I'm saying for sitting fifth, yeah, I'll take that as a good foundation to build on. Now we need to build on it. Now we need to build the house. Now we need to, in January, do something in January. Now we need to back the manager with one or two players in the January transfer window. But I just see it that I think it's a good foundation to play off. Yes, it's not great. Yes, we haven't been playing great, and I understand everyone's point. But I think we've got to be a bit. If we were sitting down the bottom where Leeds are, where Villa are at the moment, Newcastle, I think, as Drew said, it's so difficult to get up from that league. So the start of where we have them in fifth, it's a great foundation to build on. Let's build on it. We do need to improve, but let's just look at the positive side as well. There is plenty of negatives, but there's plenty of positives too.
For me, though, I don't give Frank the free pass that he has to wait for some of these injured players to come back to make a better forward line. This guy was, by many fans in the fan base, I was told he's a great tactician. He finds problems to solutions. He's just played the same formation in the same way every single game. He hasn't even tried to find any sort of solution or a way to try and fix the problem. Richarlison is shit. We know this. But then get a body up close to him so that when that ball is bouncing off him, you give somebody the opportunity to pick up that second ball. Switch back to maybe the 5-3-2 you played against PSG. Right. Get Kudos playing up alongside him. Find solutions to the problems. This is what this guy is supposed to be famous for. This is what this guy's supposed to be known for. And right now, he hasn't done anything to try and find a solution to the sort of problem in terms of going forward. And it's an issue to me. It's an issue.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point because I've been wondering when we're going to see a formation change as well too. Because the interesting thing is like, what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? But we also know that right now we just don't have anybody that Thomas Frank can trust to play that left-handed side. We know for a fact there's nothing outside for Charleston at the moment, right? So something's gonna have to give. And the other thing that should be worth mentioning is look at how Leeds have transformed themselves over the summer. They went from that finesse, high possession, playing out the back style in the championship because they could. Now they're bigger, they're more physical. They actually play better without the ball. So they're going to be a lot more hard to break down, right? So what's going to be the excuse today when we can't break down Leeds?
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I just want to see more from Thomas Frank in terms of ingenuity, at the end of the day. Anyway, we'll take these comments from the chat and we'll kick on. We've got plenty to talk about. MV Joker Davies, member for 18 months. Big up, Eddie. Good to see you. Missed you on Pro Clubs last night, by the way, man. He says, wow, 18 months, made friends for life. Come on, you Spurs. Can't be dropping points against a relegation team. Hope all is well, Dave. Oh, big up, Stevie, Drew, and Mr. Mario.
There he is.
Absolutely spot on.
MG Joker, I thought I'd bring him out.
Now, big up, Eddie. Look, we've got to, and that's Dermo being sound, by the way. He's got the gimp suit hidden in the press there, the Mario gimp suit.
No, I fucking don't. Just put it out there. It's on order. It's not here yet.
But I do agree with you, Eddie. You got to be taking 3 points from Leeds there. I don't want to see anyone justify it. I mean, I'll be honest, I was embarrassed seeing people trying to justify the 2-2 away at Bodo. It's a difficult place to game or a difficult place to go. Them same people last year acted like Bodo was a nobody. Remember that famous Europa League run when we won it? We didn't play anyone that would be in the Champions League. We didn't play anyone of caliber. We meet Bodo in the Champions League. All of a sudden, it's a tricky place to go. It's a difficult place to go. But last year, them same people were saying, oh, we should be walking in there and beating these. It's only a team from Norway. So I don't want to see anyone justify if we drop points today. It was embarrassing people justify it against Wolves as well. Where's our fucking standards gone? All last year, all I heard about was standards. This isn't acceptable. This isn't acceptable. This isn't acceptable. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to justify a point to Wolves, a point away to Bodo. I'm sorry. I asked the same question. Where are those standards gone? It's okay to back Thomas Frank, like Thomas Frank, but also question, is he getting enough out of it? But big up, Eddie. Good to see you in the building. We've also got Trinabad says, thought we were meant to give Frank engine time and settle for mediocrity this season as long as we did better than 17th. But now we're realizing the world-class players we had are now gone. I think there's a stark realization. You know me, Trinabad. Something I tried to highlight my whole time on YouTube and warn Spurs need to get ahead of the Harry Kane and Son situation. We failed. And now look at the predicament it's left us in. However, I was never one of those that said I was going to give Frank a free pass this season. I was one of those that said, well, hang on. We won a Europa League. Surely, the idea is to sort of try and build off that and kick on. So I'm not one of them that was going to give this guy a free pass. And that's probably why I'm a bit more, willing to have these conversations rather than sit there and go, oh, we're only 7 games in, layoffs, be kind, kiss his ass. Not going to do it, Trinabad. We've also got Wayne Bonner, member for 49 months. This is post-Levy era. It's how the club reacts. And look, interesting enough, it does seem like the Lewis family want to take it on moving forward. They've sort of got rid of Rothschilds and co, the guys that Levy brought in to try and get investment and try and do a deal. So it does look like that they sort of want to take this on. But I would argue, I think, they got to sort of impress fans like me, because I'm not one that, now Daniel Levy's out the way, this club is going to go forward. At the end of the day, Levy operated off their model, and they had no problem Daniel Levy operating that way for 20-odd years either. And I would also argue someone that's operating in the shadows rather than publicly in front of your face is also more dangerous. So for me, I'm going to wait and see what they do January. But more so, the big litmus test for me is next summer when there is 3-4 months, to do deals. Are they going to go gung-ho to try and fix Tottenham's problems? Let's wait and see. Wayne Bonner. He also follows up and says the club have to rebuild certain areas of the team. A striker's an absolute must. Get the right players in, pay the fees, make us stronger. Do you know what the sad reality is, though, Wayne Bonner? We've already spent 200 million plus across that forward line. What have we spent it on? You know what I mean? This is one of the big reasons why I didn't want to I wanted to try and convince Harry Kane in his last year to sign rather than cash in, because I knew the club were going to get it horribly wrong. And we're still sitting here now going, well, we still need a striker, still need a left winger, despite spending well over 200 million on this front line to try and sort of fix the issue. So what are we pissed that money about on? You know, and that was one of my big things why I didn't want to give the club the 100 million for the Harry Kane situation. I wanted to try and sign him on a new contract because we have wasted a lot of that money. But also, I think, you know, the first time around, we sort of tried to go for younger players, didn't we? Tried to get bargains. Didn't really happen. So now we're in a situation where we've got to offload players, but also still go and find the right players. Nowhere near good enough, Wayne Bonner. But next summer, I think, is the summer where hopefully we should finally see, because the makings of it is there. If you can get Mawani fit, you play Simmons, you play Kudos, you know, there is a makings of a front line there. It's just about continuing to bring in a few more bits of quality, Wayne Bonner. J-Mac says results have been okay, and we've only lost one game. Performances haven't been great, but I'm willing to give Frank time. Absolutely. We've got Tottenham Ranger says, big up the panel for keeping standards alive. We've got Rayman says, for me, it's bonkers to think Frank was going to hit the ground running and things would be different from day one. Time, money, and patience are the only things that will help. Forget January, though. Fair point, Rayman. We've also got Andrew Lancaster in the house. It would be great to see some forward goals from open play today. I mean, it'd be absolutely fantastic. It would be brilliant, wouldn't it, Andrew? I'm sitting there sort of half asleep sometimes watching us go forward. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm sitting there dead behind the eyes watching us going forward. You know, my eyes in my lifetime, I've seen Bales, I've seen Modric's, I've seen Kane's. And I think most people, when they tune in and watch me now, I'm dead behind the eyes watching us going forward. I don't really get too excited. You know, oh, this player's in a great position. Oh, you wait. He's going to take a miscontrol, pass it weird. He's going to do something to fuck it up. At the end of the day, I just want to see some competency going forward. Andrew, sorry, Stevie.
I was gonna say you're absolutely right. One of the things that boggles my mind is this need for possession, and I'm like, I don't give a shit about possession if you're like, because what good is it if you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, right? You could have 64% possession like we have and manage only 5 shots on net the entire match.
Yeah.
What does that do? Yeah, it does absolutely nothing for me.
I suppose, you know, considering if we are so bad going forward, I suppose at least retaining possession, I suppose at least, you know, gives us a longer period without probably conceding goals, I suppose. Big up Derek Hutchins. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got Ribs in the house. We've already got plenty of boring. We saw Bodo, absolutely spot on. J-Mac also says, but boring pragmatic football isn't the DNA of the club, Dermo. We've also got Levynomics in the house as well. Good to see you, Connor. I do see you on a few channels. You're a good guest.
Can I just answer that comment?
Yeah?
Can I answer that comment? I know what Tottenham DNA is. I've been supporting the team for over 43 years. I know what Tottenham's DNA is more than anyone. But you have to, you know, we will get there. But I know what the DNA is. After 43 years, I think I've copped on to that.
Fair. Darmo got out the wrong side of bed this morning, J-Mac. You've got Eltal Cockerell, member for 21 months, says, morning, lads. 3 points and move on. Come on, you Spurs. Well, it would be nice, I'll tell Cockerell. I mean, like, for me, these games should be routine. They're going to be routine for any other big club harboring ambitions of trying to finish in the top half of the table. So why shouldn't they be routine for us, my man? We definitely need 3 points today. Big up, Jose. We've also got Ed Sweet. Big up to all. Agree, Joe Lewis was in lockstep with Levy. However, I think Lewis children have realised old model is dead, or they are just looking to sell either way. That's good. Yeah, I do agree. I suppose that is a positive in that regards. But like I said, I'm going to wait for the Lewis family to sort of show their hand before I'm going to sit here and, you know, happy clap and everything else and say that, you know, I've got my club back and all that sort of jazz. But guys, Tottenham haven't won their final match before an international break since October of 2023. Tottenham fans will be hoping their side can finally break this curse today because, you know, it's become very, very frustrating. What is the cause of this? Do the players mentally switch off a bit before the break? And can Thomas Frank do anything to change that mentality? Or is it down to the leaders in the dressing room? Whoever wants to come in on that one can. We don't need to spend a long time on this one. Don't all rush at once.
It's just, I don't know, but I don't know how to answer it, Dave. I mean...
Yeah, I'm struggling as well. There's a good question.
It's like... I mean...
Yeah, for me, I think it's very hard to put it on a manager considering it sort of stems over a couple of managers. I think at some point you got to look at the leaders in the dressing room. You know, how badly do they want to win? How badly do they want to achieve? Because these games that maybe don't have the glitz and glamour around it, you don't have all the interviews in the press beforehand with your Sky Sports and your BT Sports and all that sort of shit. You know, they're the games where you're looking at the leaders and going, guys, I know it's not one of the big games, but in order for us to try and achieve something at the end of the season, these are the games we got to start making routine. These are the games we got to try and win and get over the line, you know, so that when we do come around against the bigger teams, we take points off them. We're actually using them points to sort of propel ourselves rather than just sort of trying to play catch up with these guys. So for me, it comes down to how badly do you actually want to win? How badly do you want to achieve something? At the end of the day, winners are relentless. You know, winners don't let up. And I just feel like, you know, that's where I question the winning mentality of this squad in general, that they're already looking at, oh, I can go to the beach when I'm over here. I can go and meet family or meeting up with all my buddies. Like, you know, I think it's almost like fucking breaking up for school, you know, when you get excited for the summer holidays. That's what the weekend or the week in the build up towards international break sort of feels like at Tottenham Hotspur. Everyone's just ballooning balls around the place, high five, and everyone's sort of giddy rather than maybe focused on the job in hand. And I think that maybe, in my opinion, would sort of bring around a stat like that. That's just my guess.
I look, it's a shocking stat, isn't it? It really is a shocking stat. Not to win before any international break. I read somewhere it went back to 2015, but I don't know if that's the correct stat or not. I read that somewhere. I don't know if it's right.
No,
maybe.
No. That was one that was put out after the last one. It turns out that was false. It's 2020, 7th of October, 2023.
Yeah,
last time we won.
It is a weird one. But when we get back to West Ham, we battered West Ham off the pitch. Look, I agree with you. I think players need to focus on the team. That's who pay their wages. That's where the focus should be. I think these international breaks, it should be one international break. Play all your, do it. I think they're doing it next year where they're putting two into one. So one international break instead of having.
The September and October, it's just going to be one.
Yeah. Just focus on today and get the 3 points, and then it's going to be boring until Tottenham are back again. I mean, I've got to watch Ireland for the next week and a bit, which
and our campaign's already dead and over with.
I know. I'm doing 2 watch-alongs to them, Dave. I must be absolutely mad or mental, one or the other. But yeah. But look, it's come back, Tottenham, quickly as possible.
Just quickly, big up Garby, good to see you. Big up Foggy Foam, great to see you as well. And also Q7, long time though, lads. Hope all is well. The yellow kit is behind you, is a beautiful sight, Drew. Do you know what, Q7? I'm one of them as well. I really like the yellow kit. I actually like the old school press in the middle and stuff. I know, a lot of fans maybe aren't enamored with it, but for me, I'm a big fan of it. I actually like all 3 kits this year, weirdly enough. I think though they're only messing, if anyone remembers when we done sort of design our own kits, the only thing missing off that yellow kit is the Harry Kane face all over it, but at least they went some way of appeasing me. Q7, good to see you in the building. Guys, anyone else want to come in on the phone before the international break, before we move on?
You wonder if some of these players are actually looking forward to the international break, whether or not whether or not they actually take their national team seriously. But that being said, there is also quotes from certain players that they look forward to it because it's an opportunity to play with better players. You know what I mean? And you wonder whether or not this is going to be a situation where they overlook a team like Leeds because, at the end of the day, you wonder whether or not it's actually high on their list of, things to do. Whether the 3 points against Leeds actually makes sense, or are they just looking forward to, getting with their national teams, being with their friends and potentially playing better football.
No, absolutely.
The ability to overlook the little things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, let's know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Of course, guys, we are back in action today, at Ellen Road. Never an easy place to go. Drew, are you confident heading into this one, or does this fixture sort of have the banana skin written all over it? And do we usually start well in these early kickoffs? Because I haven't actually gone and checked the stats on it. I'm just going off sort of what I can remember. Don't usually perform well in these half 12 kickoffs. Now, stats could prove me wrong, but that's just off the top of my brain.
Right. And as well, I don't know, because the last I was talking about the Leeds playing Leeds last night, and the last 3 times we put 4 goals past them. So on the one hand, you think to like, and here's the thing again, on paper, Leeds versus Tottenham. I mean, it should just be 3 points, right? It really should just be 3 points. I don't know. Daniel Farker's got them playing really well. They've been somewhat of a surprise package. I mean, what we're looking at, 2-2 and 2. I don't know. My heart tells me we should go up there. It shouldn't be a problem. Do you know what I mean? We're Tottenham. So therefore we're gonna scrape a 1-1, I think, maybe. I don't know. And to be honest with you, here's the thing. Premier League, I'll be happy to take a point away from home. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? But it would really be handy if we could grab 3, and that would make up for one of the losses at home. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of the way I look at it. Like that would make the Bournemouth game a lot more easy, a lot easier to swallow, that sort of thing. So I don't know. Leeds United and Sunderland as well, both been surprise packages this year. So
let me ask you a follow-up question though, Drew.
Yeah.
Leeds are unbeaten at Ellen Road in the league for over a year now. Do you think that this Spurs team has the mentality to be able to walk into tough places and get results? And to Darren's point, our away form is actually pretty good. I think we've got we're one of the best away records in the league, and I think our away form this season has sort of matched 11 games away from home last season.
Yeah. The thing that I find most frustrating, Dave, is people have been going on the last week or so, the last couple of weeks, the resilience, the bounce back ability. But how many bloody times have I've lived long enough to be a Spurs? Yeah, I mean, I've just been a Spurs fan long enough to know that we've been 1, 2, 3 goals down and we've come back before. Yeah, that's all great. Yeah. I want the Tottenham Hotspur that doesn't go 2 down in the first place.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean?
Resilience at 0-0.
Do up.
Show resilience at 0-0, right?
Right, exactly. Like, go out. Don't wait for something to happen. Don't be reactive. Be proactive, right? And again, like I said, if we were 2 years into a Frank reign and it was still happening, then I'd be like, what the hell are we doing? But we're 9-10 games in, so I got to pump the brakes a little bit. But when you are a team like Tottenham Hotspur, you have the aspirations that Tottenham Hotspur do, you blow smoke up your arse all the time, that we've been a big club for 40, 50, 60 years, whatever, then these are the games that you should just be going to looking and winning. And to be honest with you, I don't want to say the quality of the players and the coach don't matter. Of course it matters. But you would think in the hierarchy of football that we should always just have the better coach and the better players. As I say, like, we shouldn't even really, and I don't mean any disrespect to Leeds, but you shouldn't even really be thinking about a loss, should you?
No, it shouldn't even enter the thought process. I can't wait to the day, because under Pochettino, these were routine wins. Right. There was no airs and graces, and if you didn't win, there was sort of, inquest into why and stuff like that. Whereas now, 4 or 5 years on, we're sitting here going, oh, it's not a bad point. We're showing resilience. And I'm sitting there scratching my head. I'm losing my mind. I feel like sometimes I have to go and sit down by the river and stare at the trees, because I'm like, okay, but praise the resilience at 0-0. Praise the resilience when we go and win a game, not when we're getting a last-minute equalizer and stuff like that. I'm not being funny, but these are all traits I think people forget. We've seen under Ange Postecoglou in his first season. How many times did he bring Johnson off the bench, go and salvage a game and stuff like that? But we ended up losing that ability. And I'm not getting back into praising us for being resilient to Bodo and being resilient to Wolves. Show your resiliency heading into the game and go and get the 3 points. Don't go down in the first place. How about that for resilience? But to Dermot's point, though, about the away form, Spurs have picked up 7 points from just 3 away games this season. The same total we managed across our last 11 away games, last season. So, in fairness, it does look like Thomas Frank has changed the way we've gone away from home. I do think, that sort of structure in terms of the back line, the 2 pivots that sit in front of them, I think gives us a solid foundation away from home, and gives us the opportunity to beat sides. But the reason why, in my opinion, I think we're doing better away from home than we are at home is because away from home, we're not given respect. Teams are coming at us. They're more open, which gives us the opportunity to go and win the game. At our place, teams don't play so open, which means then we find it very hard to sort of break them down when the onus is putting us to go at the team. So I think that maybe alludes to why our away form is much better than our home form. But Thomas Frank really does need to get a handle of that home form. It is nowhere near good enough. Fans will not accept it. I mean, one concern that I tried to highlight when we hired Thomas Frank is this is one thing that everyone overlooked, and no one really mentioned it bar me. But he had some of the lowest possession stats in the league at Brentford, last season. And that's not going to fly with Tottenham fans at home. And in general, it's not going to fly at Tottenham. You are expected to control possession, or at least have the line share possession against teams at Tottenham Hotspur. And, I think one of the biggest problems at home, I found myself very bored, to be honest with you. We don't do a lot with the possession that we've got. And I think one thing that Frank needs to adjust at Tottenham is, and I think this is to a degree, I think he's probably learning on the job, is how to get the right sort of attacking front line and in terms of attacking ideas based off the possession we have, because it's something that he's never had to do before. Before at Brentford, he can just ping it long, and stuff like that. Whereas at Tottenham, he's going to have to sort of come up with a different way of playing, and that's where I'm going to show him a little bit of patience. But guys, I mean, lineups will be out in about 10 minutes' time. Does Thomas Frank need to park the rotation today and just go with the strongest 11 to give us the best shot of getting 3 points today? Or, are fans still looking for more rotation off the back of the nightmare rotation against Bodo that cost us?
No,
just real quick. If he doesn't, then he's going to show himself up, I think, Steve.
Yeah, for sure. Because think about where Leeds is right now, right? They're a team that only has about 42% of the possession. They're better without the ball than they are with the ball. Their counterattack is absolutely lethal. And oh, by the way, and it's like they're in a situation where they're at home where they don't lose. Their ears are pinned back, waiting for this one, because we are Tottenham. We have a target on our back, and this is an opportunity to get 3 points over, right? So Thomas Frank has no choice but to play his best 11 heading into the international break. There is no need for a rotation. We have 2 weeks off after this one, right? Unless there is an injury, or unless he saw something in training that he didn't like, we better see our best 11 on the pitch today.
Yeah, I think we have to. I think, he's over-rotated coming in here, to be honest with you. Also, I think midweek again, I think the inexperience of European football maybe came back to bite him a little bit as well, thinking he could go away from home and play Udebur and Johnson, get over the line against Udebur or against Bodo, when most fans sort of looked up the lineup, before the game. As soon as they seen it come out and go, oh, we're banging trouble. We've made this all of a sudden a lot harder than what it needs to be. And that's just purely because Frank rotated when he didn't need to. I think, and at the end of the day, there's no excuse for it. He's given Udebur opportunities, given Johnson opportunities, and they haven't exactly been great. So there was no need. Like, at what point do you stop giving guys opportunities that just aren't doing enough with the opportunities you're already giving them? For me, he should have learned a lesson heading into that Bodo game, that he can't rely on them guys, and that he should have played the likes of Kudus and Simmons. And I get people are going to say, but he can't rely on them every week. But we did with Harry Kane and Son, and unfortunately, we're going to have to again until we get in better depth right across that front line. But to me, please stop dicking about and just play your strongest team. That's all I ask. Give us the best chance of going to win 3 points today. It's all I ask. It's not difficult, Thomas Frank. But guys, let's talk about Vicario as well, because it feels like this is a conversation that is bubbling under the surface for a lot of Spurs fans. Last year, we shipped a lot of goals and a lot of chances on our goal, but Thomas Frank has rectified it. We're conceding fewer goals this season under Thomas Frank. But in the last few games, I think, his last 3 games, Vicario has made 3 errors. And they're starting to mount up, in general at his time overall at Tottenham Hotspur. He's weak under crosses. He does not command his area. His distribution is very inconsistent. Is Vicario becoming a problem for Tottenham Hotspur? And when is the time to have a serious conversation on whether Vicario is good enough for Tottenham Hotspur if we want to push to that next level? Do we need to upgrade Vicario like Arsenal did with Ramsdale?
Look, I've been pretty critical of Vicario for the last couple of games. I think come on to one of your shows, Dave, fan shows, and I was pretty critical of him. Yes, he made mistakes at Brighton. Yes, he should have caught that ball against Wolves last week. I mean, that I don't know why he pushed it into the middle of a dangerous area. He should have caught that. But on the flip side of that, you can't blame him for the way we were conceding goals last season. He had a defense, and he had no defense in front of him. So you can't put all the blame on Vicario. It's not like he's an Onana from Manchester United that can't, he's not a goalkeeper. Vicario is a good goalkeeper. Shot stopper, he's great. You go back to Wolves. That's goal he saved with his legs when they were 1-0 up. That gave us the platform to go and get the equaliser. If that goes in, game's dead. So where I think he needs to improve in certain areas, he's still a good goalkeeper. He is young in goalkeeping terms. So I think there's a lot to learn. I think he will grow. I think he will become, I think we need to stick with him.
He's 28 years of age there, Mo. That's not young.
Yeah, but goalkeepers sort of mature differently to outfield players.
Yeah, but 28 isn't young. He's vast experience.
Yeah, but I think he's better than, say, Kinksky. So maybe if you want to upgrade in the summer, upgrade in the summer. But at the moment, he's our goalkeeper. Has he cost us points? Yes, and I would stick by that. I would stick by that. He should have saved the 2 goals against Brighton. He shouldn't have done what they've done against Wolves. But is he a bad goalkeeper? No. I mean, if we had Onana in goal, we really would be complaining, as an example. So I think we need to stick with him. Do we upgrade in the summer? Yes, I think we do have to upgrade in the summer. But I don't think he's as bad as everyone thinks he is. He has got qualities. He needs to improve. Yes, he is 28, but I just feel that goalkeepers mature at different ages, and I think he's saved us more than he's let us down since he got the #1 spot, in my opinion.
I hear what you're saying. Look, I don't think Vicario's a bad goalkeeper. I think, he's an unbelievable shot stopper. Probably one of the best shot stoppers I've seen between the sticks at Tottenham in my lifetime. But, a lot of the mistakes he's made has been like, balls coming in from set pieces and stuff,
Correct.
And I'm not being funny, but, commanding your area is a basic of a goalkeeper. It helps out your back line massively. Distribution is also important in modern day football. And don't get me wrong, I think, Vicario, I think a lot of the hype around him, and I've probably been guilty of this as well, has been off the back of how Hugo Lloris sort of finished his career at Tottenham, and that, he has been a step up in that regard. But I think when you look at the Arsenal situation, a lot of fans at the time sort of mocked it, going, Ramsdale's been decent for you. Why are you going after David Raya? But since David Raya has come in, his distribution is a lot cleaner. His commanding in the box is a lot cleaner. He's a better shot stopper. And he has really sort of propelled Arsenal, on a little bit in terms of that, especially the benefits it's had in European football and stuff like that. And I just look at Vicario and I think, yes, he's an all-round decent goalkeeper. But I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, if there's an upgrade in the summer out there that's good enough to come in and take him out, I wouldn't be adverse to going and getting it, because with Vicario, look, don't get me wrong, I think Frank's given him the public backing by putting him in that leadership group. That it sort of says, look, regardless of the mistakes, Vic, you're still my #1. But does Vicario have the ability to go on a run of games and sort of repay Thomas Frank? I'm not quite so sure. For me, I just look at him. I think he's fragile. I think he flaps around a lot. And when I look at the top teams, all their goalkeepers behind them are very calm in presence. They're not sitting there screaming, pointing, and all this sort of stuff. When balls come into the box, they're able to deal with them and stuff. And I just look at Vicario and I think it could be a similar situation to where Arsenal found themselves.
Right, and I think that being a good shot stopper is 50% of the equation, right? Where was his where's his weak points, right? In distribution with the ball at his feet, trying to play out of the back, not exactly the strongest, but also what's his Achilles heel, Dave? Defending shots from outside the box, right?
Yeah.
Look at the 2 goals from Bodo Clint outside the box. When you talk about the goals in the preseason, Newcastle and PSG, where do those shots come from? Outside the box, right? For whatever reason, that seems to be his Achilles heel, right? When teams are playing from the outside to in. And when you look at the set pieces, right? Does he command the line? No. And that's also kind of a weak area as well too. I know there was one of my favorite descriptions came from Ash Maddock, where he called him a flappy bird on the line, which is actually kind of accurate, right? But then you have to ask yourself the question, like, is Kinski ready to take that challenge right now? And then also, what kind of message does that send to the leadership group as well too, right? Because you're absolutely right. You just anointed him one of the leaders, and all of a sudden now you're going to go to a guy like Kinski, right? So do you have anybody that's in-house right now that's willing to step up and actually give you exactly what Vicario is willing to give you, or potentially perform better, or is this something that's going to have to wait to the summer? But I would probably assume we're at that point where everyone, even some of these players on the back line, you should be looking to upgrade. Like there's as far as I'm concerned, we're at a point where you should look to be upgrading pretty much every single position at this point.
And look, I think, Drew, the problem we have with someone like Anthony Kinski is, right, I think everyone is no doubt that he's a talented young goalkeeper. He's very highly rated. And I think when you look at him, right, he's a lot more commanding of his box. He's got a lot better sort of distribution. But one of his big weaknesses that we've seen when he did have a run in the side has been his shot-stopping ability. But if Vicario keeps making these mistakes, I mean, at what point do you give him a proper look? Because with Vicario, we praise him for his shot-stopping. And, to Steve's point, the amount, like, the goals he's conceding from outside the box. But because we've stopped so many clear-cut chances, on our goal, he is going to have to deal with shots from outside the box a lot more. And if you go back and look at Flecken last year at Brentford, faced more shots outside the box than any other goalkeeper in the Premier League last year. So it just tells you that the way Frank sets up, a lot of teams will end up having to take shots from outside the box. Against Brighton, didn't cover himself in glory. Against Wolves, didn't cover himself in glory. And then against Bodo, went to clear a ball and hooked it 60 yards up in the air, and it went about 10 meters.
Yeah, I got some issues with his distribution. Like I say, you can't take anything away from shot stopping, but like as Steve alluded to, you're a goalkeeper. That's what you are supposed to do. So
that's what you're supposed to do.
You're right. So I don't know. To be honest with you, when it comes to the set pieces, I think Vicario, Romero, and VDV need to share some equal blame because they're all big units, and I don't see any of them really commanding the box. Like VDV's 6'4". Like when I saw that leadership group yesterday, I was actually quite surprised at how tall Vicario was. So he's a big lad as well. He's taller than Romero.
How tall is he? Because when you actually look at him between the goals, he doesn't look the biggest.
He doesn't, but apparently he's like 6'3", 6'4". So I know, right? So you've got, like, I just wish he would be a bit more commanding. I think he's still, I don't think we did him any favors when he first arrived. Do you remember there was that spate where he was just getting bullied? He would get a corner and you would have the opposing striker or anybody would just be standing on his toes. And no other defenders, none of our defenders seemed to want to protect him. And I don't know. I think the three of them between them need to be more commanding. All three of them. I don't think it's just a Vicario thing at set pieces.
Yeah, I would agree.
No.
I would agree.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm surprised. I've never actually really looked up how tall Vicario is, but you're correct. I've done the conversion there. He is 1.9 meters tall, which is like 6'3". And, when I look at him in goals, he doesn't exactly look the biggest or the most sort of imposing figure, Even under high balls, he looks very sort of lightweight, in general. And, maybe he doesn't use his size to his advantage. I think you're absolutely spot on there, Drew.
Right.
But the lineups are out, everybody. Let me take this down off Stevie.
I just don't think forwards are, I don't know, can you be scared of a keeper? I always used to think people used to be scared of Petr Cech because there was no way you were getting past that dude. Like he to me is like, if we could get a regen of Petr Cech, that would be the one because he's my favorite keeper for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
But and he used to put the fear of God in forwards. It was like, do you know what? What's the point? Because I'm not getting past this tree. And I just don't get that from him.
It was solid, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, he was class, wasn't he?
Yeah, he could come out clean balls. He's a good shot stopper, good one-on-one stopper, and plus he was a big guy as well. To be fair, even before that, I think I used to love Ollie Kahn. He was one that sort of would be a bit scary and stuff like that. But look, the lineups are out. Vicario retains his number one spot. Destiny Dogie comes in at left back. Pedro Porro at right back with
Romero and VDV.
Romero and VDV as your centre backs. Bentancur and Paulini return to the midfield. with Xavi looking like he's going into the number 10.
And
Tel will play up front, Kudos off the right, and Udebur off the left is what it's looking like. With Kinski, Danzo, Richarlison, Gray, Bergvall, Johnson, Spence, Sarr, and Davies all on the bench. So Matisse Tel up front instead of Richarlison, which is something I thought would happen today. I think Richarlison did look a bit leggy, a bit tired. I mean, look, Steve, we'll start with you, my man. What's your thoughts on the lineup, and what's your thoughts in terms of score prediction today?
I guess I'm fine with the I'm fine with the midfield and the back four. I think that's probably the best that we can expect from those units, right? But the question is there going to be enough creativity in order to get certain guys forward? Can we get Matisse Tel forward? Can we play one on for him and let him actually be a little bit dangerous, right? I'm struggling to figure out exactly where the goals are going to be coming from, right? Playing Odebear and Tel together has a recipe for disaster. I don't know. Listen, I'll be perfectly honest, man. I'm a little worried about this attacking three because I have a feeling that we're going to try to force everything down the right-hand side and put the onus on Kudus to try to potentially get balls in the box. Same thing with Pedro Porro. He's probably going to be playing up a little bit, and that's going to be coming from the right-hand side. And so the question is whether or not Leeds is going to key in on that. I predicted a 2-2 draw yesterday, and I'll stick with it. 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Well, look,
listen, here's the thing, man. I want to believe in Matisse Tel. I really do, but I think we've seen Matisse Tel essentially get marked off the entire pitch and be completely useless, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is just where we're at right now with the striker group. And until we actually can get somebody that can actually play the position correctly to the way that Thomas Frank wants to, it's going to be hard for this team to try to play direct. So I have a feeling this is going to be a situation where we're going to get stuck on the wings. We're going to get camped out on the wings, and it's going to have to be Xavi Simons that's going to have to, essentially be the engine of this attack.
To be honest with you, look, I know most won't be happy with maybe Matisse Tel being included, but I'd rather that today than just put Richarlison out there again.
Sure.
I mean, I had 10 touches of the ball last week. I think 2 touches came from kickoff. He looked a bit leggy, and at some point, even though Matisse Tel hasn't took his opportunities, I do think Frank has to sort of rotate between them.
Sure.
Try and get something out of them until maybe he gets a Mawani back and a Solanke back. I think right now, although I'm not Matisse Tel's biggest fan, I think Frank has made the right decision in terms of bringing him in there today. But guys, please get across, check out Stateside Footy over here on YouTube. Make sure you do smash the subscribe button for Stevie over there and show him your love and support. Basically, it's just a nice way to repay these guys on the panel, for them giving up their time. So big up, Stevie. Really appreciate it. Drewski, what's your thoughts on the lineup and what's your score prediction for today's game? Look, many people wanted to see Simmons in the number 10. They're getting it today.
Yeah, and I think it opens up more options for him. I think I just think you're a little bit wasted sticking him out on the left, but needs must at the moment. But I'm looking forward to seeing him on the 10. I was looking at the Leeds United 11, and I honestly, there's a dude called K. Darlow who sounds like he's from Coronation Street. We've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, Joe Roden in defence. Come on. What are we doing here? My heart says 4. My heart says 4. I'm giving it Faz Radfar, giving it the 4-0, 4-1. But my head says 1-0.
But to your point, haven't we scored a couple of goals up there in recent trips?
4 in the last. We've put 4 past them last 3 times we've met him. And that's twice at their place and 1 at our place, I think.
Yeah.
We did 4-1, 4-0, and 4-3. Yeah.
How much you guys want to bet that attacking three, the attacking three that Drew so eloquently just trashed, that just so elegantly trashed, all of a sudden finds space behind, and all of a sudden, the American boy gets a goal, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets a free shot and puts one past Vicari.
Honestly, that guy can barely move. If he scores against us, we've got big problems on the horizon.
Their central midfielder is Sean Longstaff. What are we doing? Come on.
Although I would say they are very actually this season. Looking at them, they're very combative in midfield. In fairness, they work their nuts off in there. But I do get what you're saying in general. If we don't have enough quality to sort of put them on the back foot, then it really, really is concerning. But Drew, people make sure. I know you there's a lot of love for Drew around the Tottenham community. Please get across the Spurs diehards. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. And check out his show every Friday as well over there. But make sure you show him the love. It's a great way to show Drew a thank you for the time that he gives up to be here. Big up Brett Lockhead as well. Good to see you. And last but not least, Dermo, what's your thoughts on the lineup and what's your score predictions, lad?
I'm quite happy with the lineup. I have to disagree with what? What was that? Sorry.
No, I didn't say it.
No.
I thought somebody said something. That's why I stopped. Sorry. All right. I'm quite happy with the lineup. Look, we had to play Tell up front. I had him in my predicted lineup. Anything's better than Richie. I think Odegaard down the left. Look, we all want Xavi in the 10 row. So I think we're getting what we want. I think we will get a win today. I think we'll get a 2-1 win today. I think we're going to bag the 3 points. Leeds, we should be beating Leeds away. So, yeah, I like the lineup and the 2-1 win for me.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it. Guys, like Dermo, please get it. Or like for Drew.
We all like Dermo.
Please get across the THFC till we die. And please smash that subscribe button for him and help him on his road to 3K. I suppose we'll take a couple more comments and then we will bounce out of here and go and get some lunch ahead of the game. First of all, Drew Minch wants your best lead.
Your best lead. Come on, let's do it.
I don't know if I can do Leeds. I don't even know. It's kind of a bit Yorkshire, isn't it? Let me get a video up.
Sounds a bit Surrey, doesn't it?
It's a bit. It's a little bit like this. I don't know. This is a bit too Yorkshire. I think I'd have to go further north or south, depending on where Leeds was. But yeah, it's somewhere up there. Somewhere up there.
You sound a bit like Soren there, actually. So
Well, how do you know? How do you know I'm not Soren, Dave? How do you know I'm not Soren?
Dude, they're brothers. What are you talking about?
Well, there we go. Hang on. There you go.
You are brothers, that's for sure. But there you are. Minch, there's your best Leeds accent. Alan M also says, big up Drew, grounded opinions and funny as fake to boot.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate you, buddy.
Got this from PG, says it's only I'm only 30 minutes from Leeds and the weather is absolutely wild over the Pennines. Will be a tough day for us today. Yeah, look, I think, the whole of the UK and Ireland is sort of dealing with this Storm Amy right now, aren't they? I woke up yesterday and today to battering winds, rain everywhere. Look, it's not going to be an easy day. Even if you try to play high balls, the wind's going to be swirling around. It's going to take the ball with it. In terms of the surface, this is where your passing's got to be spot on because extra water on the surface means the ball's going to start skidding off the top of it and stuff like that as well. So, look, at the end of the day, they're professional athletes. They're paid to sort of handle these conditions. It may not be the prettiest of games, PG. We just need to find a way of winning. I think the good thing that on days like this, if we can't play our pretty football, at least we're a massive threat from set pieces, PG, which hopefully is a way of getting around it and doing enough to be able to get a result today. Big up, PG. Really appreciate the support. And look, keep us up to date on the weather conditions, my man. I think it's very, very important we know that.
That's the name of the storm,
the region
Amy? That's the name of the storm, Amy? Is that what
Storm
you said?
Amy, yeah. Storm Amy, yeah.
That doesn't sound scary. Amy's aren't scary. I've never met a scary Amy.
I was going to say something there, but comments are best left in my own head at sometimes. But big up, PG. Good to see you in the building. Really appreciate the support. The Pennines, is that the region that whole area, Yorkshire and all is called? Let me know. No. But big up, PG. No?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It is. Interesting.
It is.
Sounds very exciting. And I've been to Leeds, by the way. By the way, Leeds is actually a very good night out. I was there on a stag do and stuff like that, and I've been to Leeds. But it's nowhere near as exotic as the Pennines make it sound to be. Definitely not, that's for sure. And then Dark Sun G says, I think Leeds are playing 5-3-2 or 3-5-2. Can tell work. look, one thing I will say with Leeds, they are sort of suspect under crosses. So if we can get plenty of balls into the box, I think there's an opportunity there for us. Look, with Matisse Tell, can he work? Well, as long as he actually connects with the football and doesn't keep kicking fresh air, I think that's a massive start, Dark Song G. And once you start connecting with the football, I suppose it gives you an opportunity of scoring goals, doesn't it, my man? But look, I think with Tell, look, for me, I think one of the big things Thomas Frank is not having. I don't think he works as hard as other options. Even though they may not play well, I don't think he works as hard as some of these other options. And I think that's maybe one reason why he finds himself maybe not in Frank's good graces or his good books. But at the end of the day, every game and the next game is always an opportunity to turn around your form. All of a sudden, you score a goal. Matisse Tell will be like, what are we talking about on the build-up to that? And all of a sudden, you can just hit the ground running. I've seen it happen before in my time watching football. And at the end of the day, as much as I don't rate the kid, he's a Spurs player, and I need him to do a job for me today. So I'm going to be fully behind this guy. Let's see what he can do. Big up, Dark Song G. But I want to say a massive thank you. Oh, wait there. I think I'm missing one here as well from Thomas. Big us, Thomas Owen. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Xavi's going to find it difficult against Ethan Ampadu. Look, with that Leeds midfield, Thomas, they are very combative. They do like to get up and try and turn over possession. You know, they are going to hit you hard. So it'll be very interesting to see how Xavi Simons sort of operates within that. Can he find himself space? Can he sort of produce these passes that we're expecting from him? But also, you know, can he take a kicking? Can he take tackles? Because it's one thing doing it in Germany and France and stuff, but the Premier League is a lot more sort of competitive in that regard. You need to be a lot more robust. You need to be a hell of a lot more physical. And I'm worried about a little bit. I think Xavi Simons might need that sort of time to adapt physicality-wise in general. But look, it's a big game for him. A lot of people have been clamoring to see this guy in the number 10. I think they see him as maybe the long-term solution. But he played number 10 against Doncaster. Didn't look great. When it moved into the number 10 against Wolves, didn't look great. Came on the other night in the number 10, spent most of his time fucking, you know, inside Udebert shorts down that left-hand side. So, you know, tonight he's got to show his sort of value in that number 10 role. Thomas, big up, my man. Really appreciate the support. But guys, that's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to the panel here this morning. You know, to the likes of Stevie and Drew. I don't think you guys realize that at home, but you know, I think it's like what 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. where them guys are. Yeah. You know, it's absolutely, you know, the commitment is absolutely insane just to be here to have these conversations and building up to the game. Because I'll be quite honest, I think if I was on that side of the pond and people asked me to do 9:30 in the morning, I think I'd probably end up taking my sleep over streaming, to be quite honest with you. So I actually really do appreciate that you guys would rather keep turning up here. So a massive thank you and appreciation to you. A massive thank you to Tron as well, getting out of bed. I know when he gets up, he's always got a lot of things that he needs to do, but he's parked all them to be here today. So massive thank you to you. But most importantly, guys, a massive thank you to all you lovely fuckers at home who continue to rock up here, show us your love, show us your support, and also hold us to account in comments, but also get your comments in, you know, in terms of the conversations we're having. And a massive thank you to people who have gone the extra mile today. It really does help us out, help us keep growing this channel and stuff like that. Big up to Thomas Owen, big up to Dark Sun G, big up to PG, big up to MV Eddie, big up to Eltel Cockerell, Wayne Bonner as well. Really appreciate the support from you guys. Guys, we're going to end it here. I'll be back here in half an hour's time for the watch-along. You don't need to go anywhere else for the watch-alongs. We've got all the mod cons. We've got your live stats, your live lineups, live league table, everything else on the watch-along. So make sure we see you back here in half an hour. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Frank Andrew, we trust.
Forever.
I don't know what that was.